What excited student you about making the WG Pearson Center our home was the history of the building. This building was built in 1928 as the historically black elementary school here in Durham in the heart of the Hayti community, which to us represents the resilience of the African American community, the leadership that people demonstrated here, the ability to envision a world where every member of the community is able to be successful, where there is community, and thinking about who we are, what we want to be true for our students in the future. Being here in this building that is so rooted in the neighborhood, in the consciousness of Durham, felt like an opportunity for us to really live up to the potential and to the vision that WG Pearson, the man, had for young people in Durham, that he advocated for, as well as continue to think about what can be possible for the students that we serve now into the future.
This community back in the 1800s, early 1900s, was known as the Black Wall Street. It was known as the Black City on the Hill. It had everything that you could imagine, from hotels to restaurants to doctor's offices, schools, barber colleges, business schools. It was a vibrant community. It was a community that you would see nowhere else in the United States. It was home to many African American millionaires, and it just had incredibly rich history. There's one resident who said that you could be born and you could die in Hayti and never have to leave. Everything that you needed was there.
Hayti had a very unique culture because it did have this sense of independence, and it had this connection to the name Haiti, which was this independent nation, this small, scrappy, independent nation of former slaves. And so this kind of self-image of Hayti was a key aspect of building this culture. That culture ultimately ended up being built on kind of two pillars, and James Shepherd, who founded North Carolina State University, basically laid out those pillars by saying that individuals needed to do one or two things. They either needed to be educators or entrepreneurs, and that ended up becoming a strong aspect of what Hayti was focused around: education and entrepreneurship. WG Pearson was a very unique individual in the ecosystem that ultimately became Hayti. You know, he had been born a slave, and after slavery, he ended up working for Julian Carr. Which Julian Carr was a kind of a complex individual in some ways. He ended up, WG Pearson ended up working for Julian Carr at one of his factories. Julian Carr saw how kind of industrious he was, and ultimately financed his education at Shaw University. Well, when WG Pearson was able to get that education, he came back to Durham, and he did a lot in terms of helping to create the culture of what Hayti became, and he really followed those two areas of focus that James Shepherd, who was a good friend of his, laid out, both education and entrepreneurship. And so he became a real strong pillar of education. Helped to create what became Hillside High School, make sure that it was a first-rate, top-notch school. He helped to grow, helped to get accredited. Really focused on his students and the teachers to make sure they were providing the best education possible. And so he was a key part of what made this kind of educational aspect of Hayti work, which ended up being a very important part of making the entrepreneurial side work. But at the same time, he was also a strong entrepreneur. He was one of those that was at the table when North Carolina Mutual was founded, Kansas Farmers Bank, a number of other financial entities and institutions. And so he was able to wear two hats in that sense, and be a key factor in what ultimately built the culture of Hayti, which was education and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, this community is special because of its history. When segregation was a part of the fiber of this country, there were a group of African Americans, many of them just one generation removed from slavery, and many of them were at one point enslaved. But they came together and they built a community out of their own resources. They built everything that they needed, and they were able to sustain the community based upon their commitment to the community. What I find to be the most special is those people who are third, fourth generations who still live in this community, and although they've gone through the ups and downs of it, they're still committed to the community, and they have hope that the community one day will be revitalized and will somehow return to the hustle and bustle of the Hayti that many of them grew up with as children.